to everyone.
No, let's not. That's at least 50% of his class has his grade or lower. Is moving towards everything race.
And the police comes and they say, well, we can't do anything.
Of course, all opinions are my own, not my employer's.
Period. Hello. It's Wednesday, and you know what it is. It's time for Pop and Politics. Tonight, we are back with the latest in hot topics, news, and entertainment. I'm KJ, and let me introduce you to my co-hosts. We have Shelly E, we have Xandria, and we have T. And also tonight, we are joined for our first segment by former Mayor of Baltimore City, Sheila Dixon. How are you tonight? How's everyone doing?
Great.
I'm good.
A long day, but I'm good.
All right. So join the conversation by leaving a comment on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. We will check the comments periodically throughout the show. And don't just comment, subscribe. Subscribe to our social media so you always know when we post new content. Check out our website at www.metroconservativemedia.com for up-to-date information. We are a necessary voice in news and entertainment. All right, ladies, let's set it off. So again, we are joined tonight. We have the pleasure of having former Mayor of Baltimore City, Mayor Sheila Dixon. So basically, we just want to talk about the state of the city. So I'm just going to get right into it. We can start off with last week or 2 weeks ago? Governor Hogan was critical of Marilyn Mosby, State Attorney Mosby's decision not to prosecute nonviolent crimes. And he's threatened to cut her funding unless Marilyn Mosby provides information on plea deals she struck, cases she has chosen not to prosecute, and those cases her office has reduced charges. She accused Hogan of attacking her over the city's violence because of her sex and race. So, how do we hold her, and for that matter, Black officials accountable within the city without being called for sex? I want to get your thoughts on that, Madam Mayor.
So I saw the press conference that the governor gave, and I heard his comments and wanted to have an audit done of her agency to determine, what some of the strengths and weaknesses were, as well as a whole host of other things. So, and then I saw Marilyn take it personal and then kind of go on attack. And so my approach, if I was the governor, to be honest with you, because there's levels of government and public safety that need to be accountable, even at the governor's level, even at the state's attorney's level, even at the local level. All the judicial processes, in my opinion, are somewhat dysfunctional. If I were the governor, I would have taken a different approach. I would have reached out to her office, scheduled a meeting with her, sit down with Marilyn to talk about his frustration and things that he wanted to see happen. I think having a press conference versus sitting down, and then once you sit down and try to discuss it, and then if you can come up with an agreement, then you go public and say, hey, we talked, I can't get any cooperation, because there's some fault on everybody's part. I think that some of her policies, I don't have anything against Marilyn as a prosecutor, as far as personally, but her policies, most of them I don't agree with either. I have a problem with you just ignoring low-level crimes, and I get it. Arresting somebody for prostitution, arresting somebody who is a drug addict and they're trying to get money for the drugs. If you don't have those resources that are going to help to support them and show evidence that the prostitution has was decreased, that the drug addiction and people hanging out on the corners, the panhandlers, because most panhandlers out there today are drug addicts, black and white, that are on the corners. I'm not talking about the squeegee folks. I'm talking about the panhandlers. But you got to have those resources and services that are going to be supportive of them. And that's where, from my perspective, the governor's office could come into play by helping to provide at the state level the services through the Department of Social Services, Human Resources, the Health Department. All of that plays a role.
Now, what
And
about
then ask the prosecutor, state's attorney, to show, okay, if you've been going after violent offenders, what are the results of those incidents with the violent offenders? Or where are the pitfalls? Is it because once you prosecute, the courts are not, the judges are not taking on their responsibility, which is actually one of the authorities that the governor has.
Now, let me ask you, what about that? 'Cause when you talk about the results, she did say she has 18 homicide convictions out of 300 murders in the city. I mean, that doesn't sound
that's poor. That's poor.
Yeah.
As being a mayor and working, well, even before becoming a mayor and looking at the issues between the state's attorney at that time, Pat Jessamy, and Martin O'Malley, and the bickering back and forth and pointing fingers. When I had that, you learn and you observe. When I had the opportunity to become mayor, at that point in time, I knew that we weren't going to rest our way out of crime. We weren't going to rest our way out of it. We had to deal with the quality of life. We had to deal with what was happening in the neighborhoods. We had to deal with violent offenders. We had to deal with the illegal guns on the street. But we also had to make sure that everybody was at the table and taking on their responsibilities. And so I sat down with the state's attorney, Pat Jessamy at the time, and my commissioner, and we had a conversation. What are the weaknesses in the police department? Why is it when they do arrest and they do the reports and it comes to the state's attorney's office, things seem to fall in a dark hole? And the state's attorney said it very clearly at that time. She said, they're not writing the reports well. I said, so what can we do to help them? She ended up setting up a class to teach officers how to write the right reports in order when they arrest, that they can then take it to the next level and prosecute. But we had the judges at the table, parole and probation, through the Criminal Coordinating Council, which was abolished under Hogan because of a mayor who had no experience. And this is not belittling Catherine Pugh, but she didn't have the knowledge of the importance of having everybody to the table. And she had asked that that be abolished. And now, why at this day and point in time, the governor has not reinstituted the Criminal Coordinating Council, because it's a meeting, a monthly meeting, but there's also committees where all the public safety entities are at the table. You're looking at each other. It's a public meeting. People can come in and observe what we say, how we act, how we answer questions. But you really got.
So, Mayor Dixon, I want to jump in here. You mentioned this criminal coordinating committee. So this committee was abolished under Catherine Pugh. Catherine Pugh has been out of office maybe almost 2 years, I guess. And so we've still had 300 plus murders for the last 7 years when the committee was in effect. So that really doesn't explain, at least to my thinking, it doesn't explain why we still have a prosecutor who is not doing her job. So as a mayor, I would like to ask you, because apparently these meetings may have gone on between she and Brandon Scott. So as a mayor, what do you see that is not happening other than this committee and these talks? Because talks are cheap. People are losing their lives.
No, I agree. And one of the things that I was determined during my tenure, and the other part that to answer your question, there has not been consistency. When you have a crime plan that you see that is beginning to be effective, and it was beginning to be effective under my administration, where we were going after the violent offenders, we were dealing with illegal guns on the street, we have police officers out in the community, we were working with the state's attorneys, the judges understood that they had a role and responsibility. But if you don't have consistency, we haven't had consistency over the last 10, 12 years. We've gone through police commissioners, police officers, whoever the commissioner is, if they don't like or care about the commanding force, you've had consistency in the last 7 years with the state's attorney, but you didn't have consistency with mayors and police commissioners. And so I don't know, to be honest with you, I know they say they talk, but I'm like you. My thing is, let's talk about it, but then what is the action going to be put behind it? And that's the piece that I think there's a disconnect.
Well,
I agree with you. Accountability is everything. And it's not about a person's personality. You can dislike me, but if I'm doing a good job, and because I understand what needs to happen, then commend me on that. But some of these progressive policies are not effective in this city of Baltimore.
Well, I'm glad that you said that, because my question would be, I'm originally from Florida, but I've heard many good things. I moved here, I think, when you were the mayor, or right at the end of your term, and just knowing the political history of Baltimore City, the past 60 plus years have been progressive or Democratic led. So I want to ask you, what do you think the current state of Baltimore City, what is your overall assessment of the current state of Baltimore City's government, leadership, even academics? What is your assessment of what's going on, considering you've been under 60 years of leadership, Democratic leadership?
So taking away Democrat, Republican, progressive, whatever, it's about understanding systems and how they work to be effective. And I try to give people the benefit of the doubt. I try not to just, because when you have knowledge and you understand how systems work and you see that things are not working well, I'm trying not to be critical at this point. It's taken a lot out of me to not to be, because of understanding how things can work and be effective. And so I think it's about getting into positions, and this is just not for just the mayor, it's city council, it's state's attorney, it's whatever the position is. You have to understand your job and your responsibility in that job. And a lot of times in Baltimore, people get into political positions, they have no clue. And so they have ideas and they have concepts, but they don't understand how systems work and how they have to work cohesively in order to be effective. And it's got to work at different levels.
So what is your assessment of what's going on now, whether I'm not really about the actual leadership, but about the academics, like all of this that's going on in Baltimore City? I mean, it's black.
I'm very frustrated. I'm frustrated about what I see. I'm disappointed. We need to be so much further than what we are. We're losing population. I really am disappointed, and it really hurts when I hear incidents happening in our community. I mean, just the other day in Hamden, where you had two individuals were shooting at each other, driving down the street. The 69-year-old woman at her church, being stabbed by somebody, and they still don't know who that is. First of all, Reverend Hickman should not have allowed a woman to go in that church to open up at 6 o'clock. You need to have security there if you're talking about construction people, but that's never here nor there.
Right, so
the abuse of babies.
It's been like this for 60-something years, 60 plus years, though. There hasn't been change, even during
I have to disagree that is not, it hasn't been like this for 60 some years. And if you look at the numbers over the years, ask yourself the question, why were the numbers here during one period and then they started going down and then they went back up? The lowest crime in this city was under my administration. Stephanie, when she came in and I left, the first year and a half, her numbers were going down because she had the police commissioner that I appointed. They were still operating in the same strategy, focused on the most violent offenders, the whole ordeal. And then people who sometimes don't know policing think that they can dictate to the police commissioner how to run the police department. I'm an educator. I also was in business, international business. So there's certain things that I feel confident that I can say that I have a lot of knowledge in.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. Will you say this, Mayor Dixon? In 2018, I saw your TED Talk, your TEDx talk that you gave, I think at the University of Baltimore, I think it was. And you said, quote, "Now is not the time to point fingers and blame." So I'm going to ask you, will you go on the record tonight and point fingers and specifically blame, hold accountable the elected leaders of Baltimore City?
Oh, clearly, definitely. And when I did the that event that day, you know what, I was not comfortable with my presentation, and I looked at other presentations that later on. I said I did not really say what I wanted to say, but
say it now, Ms. Dixon. Come on, tell me who you going to blame today.
But I've been saying it since I ran 2 other times, and I ran because despite what happened to me and the politics behind that, I ran those 2 other times because I knew and I know what it takes to be successful. But you'll be seeing some things in the next year of people that I'm going to support because of what I believe it's going to take to move this city forward.
Now, let me go to some of the comments.
I'm not going to name them right
I was going to jump in.
Well, actually, let me go to a comment because it speaks to something Madam Mayor is saying. We have Tamara Brown. She says, everyone is friends. Can't be critical of friends. And this
That's not true. That's not true.
That's what we have here.
Well, Tamara used to work for the city, and Tamara's a little bitter because of what happened to her. And there's 2 sides to the story, but I'll be honest with you. And you can ask anybody who worked on my administration. I would create a mission and a plan. I don't care if you were my friend or not my friend, because I had people who worked for me who didn't support me for mayor. I want the best talented people who want the best for the city or whatever position that I'm in.
But that's also politics. Politics is you rub my back, I rub yours. I mean, that's the part of politics.
I've never operated like that.
Yeah, I want to jump in.
And we got to get away from that because it's not about that. It's the best
people. You have 2 of the top positions in leadership: city council president and state's attorney, who are married. You have Brandon Scott, who was city council president for years, and he's moved up. So it does.
Well, he was only president as a result of Catherine leaving. He only for a year. He had planned on running anyway, despite being president of city council or being on the council. He had planned on running anyway.
Right, but when you say have these people who have been around, at least, and I'm a native Baltimore, have been around since I can remember. All these people have been around. It's no new faces. It does seem like
but we do have new faces. Ooh. Look at the city council. And I'm gonna tell you, the people that come to me to talk about how ineffective the council is, they're not responsive. Most of the council people that are there are new. Well, because everybody wanted new.
But it's the same idea.
Go ahead. Same thing with state legislators.
I want to jump in because everything you guys are talking about kind of ties into a question I wanted to ask. And I see Nicole and Tamara, their comments popping up, and that relates a lot as well. So, in the city, there is this culture in the local city government where decisions are made based on self-interest, not in the interests of residents. And just to preface this, I was talking with some local community leaders this past week who, these are not new nonprofits. These are people that have lived in, for better word, the trenches of the violence, right, for anywhere from 20 to 70 years. And one of the conversations I was having with a guy, which has been echoed by many other leaders, he said, you know what? The solutions have been here for years, Xandria. Every year we have researchers, we have tons of people identifying the same problems and coming up with the same solutions in different verbiage, in different words. The problem is the corruption. And since Tamara, came up on the screen, right, that's a perfect example. You have in her department, which was the Baltimore City's Minority and Women's Business Opportunity Office. For those watching the show who don't know, there were businesses that were utilized to win contracts, but then they were never informed of their contracts. Once the contracts were awarded, these businesses weren't used. These are people relying on that money, right? Another example, and not to go too in depth with it, but you have this new infrastructure bill. Now, I know from my line of work that people, all this talk of bringing internet to the city, Wi-Fi to the city, that's not new. That's been going on for a long time. And it always seems like the city is only willing to help if somehow it profits them, or they have relationships with certain monopolies, so to say, right? People say they are in bed with the telecom companies, right? So how do we squash all this corruption that is going on?
So you said a lot. Let's go back to the MBE, WBE, where a contractor, a prime contractor names. I work with minority contractors. I've always been an advocate for minority and women-owned companies. That's part of why I'm out of public office, but that's a whole nother story. When a contract comes before the city and they go with the lowest bid and you select a minority contractor or women-owned company and they don't use that company, that prime contractor should be removed from the contract, because part of what you sign is documentation saying that this company is going to get this percentage or this dollar amount. And I've had to lobby on so many occasions, and that's where a lot of times people think that you are pushing for this company or that company where you're not. Doesn't matter who the company was, but that company should be removed from doing business with the city, because that's not fair to those MBs and WBs. I'm fighting right now with some MBEs and WBEs because they haven't been paid in a year and a half. They might have to lay off people. And so I'm fighting with the city now to just get their payment. They've stopped work because they can't get paid. So that's that. But like, if you don't understand, wait a minute, but if you don't understand, and that's the thing. See, people say new faces. You gotta learn your job. And this is something I tell young people when they say, I want to go into politics, I want to go be a city council or do this or do that. First thing I say is understand your role, learn your job. If you don't learn the job, you won't get it, and you're not going to be effective.
Well, one thing, if I could jump in, because if you learn your job, you look at somebody like Tamara Brown, who was working her job and doing well. Prior to her getting let go, she was actually praised for how well she was doing her job. But because she started finding inaccuracies and finding waste and fraud within the MBE
corruption,
corruption, they fired her.
And the other thing, and just to add to
that, I worked from the outside with Tamara, because I was helping companies to get certified. So Tamara was dealing with a couple of my clients who were removed from a job and because of the prime contractor. So I know the good job that she was doing. Now, I wasn't in there. She didn't work for me, but I understand her frustration in that whole process. But keep in mind, there's still two sides to the story. Right. There's two sides.
How do we expose this? Because there are
she said tell the second side. Hold on, Xandria.
I'm not going to get into a personnel issue, because then it becomes tit for tat. You have Tamara's side, and then you have people that she worked under their side. And that's why when it comes to personnel stuff, you got to look at the entire picture.
Right.
So we're not going to talk about that here, but she was doing a good job. Right. And I agree.
Tamara was on our show, and you can look at the episode, and we did ask her, since you're here, what would you say to people who would say that you're bitter, as you mentioned? But we're not here to litigate Tamara's situation tonight.
No.
You made a good point. You said something about jobs, and I want to ask you about that. Where are the jobs in Baltimore? Where are the people supposed to be working that don't have jobs?
She said Dana is my friend.
I'm sorry?
No, I saw her comment about Dana is my friend. That's not, see, the point
we're
is,
not here to,
I know that, but Tamara keeps putting these comments in, and she's not being accurate and fair.
But we're not here to litigate Tamara's case.
We're talking about Tamara.
I do want to make a point off of that, because there's a lot of different private companies, whether it's that or in the city, people that work in the city, and everybody's afraid to speak out on this corruption out of fear of retaliation. You
Well,
have
the best thing that has happened, and that happened under O'Malley, and now it's even better, is having that inspector general. That is the best thing, because individuals from outside of government, inside of government, can go to the inspector general and make that report. And make those reports. And that's why people are kind of nervous about the city's inspector general. I mean, I think she's doing a phenomenal job, because she's exposing people and in situations that this is an independent office, and her job is needed more than ever. So I commend having that role.
And
I want to talk about the jobs. So where are the jobs in Baltimore? Where are the people who live here in Baltimore who want to work, who want to provide for their families a sustainable income and livelihood? Where are they supposed to work? I think we need more competition, more free market, private enterprises to bring competition and jobs to the city. How do we get that? If you want to add in the corruption and the inefficiency of the fraud, waste, and abuse in City Hall, but how do we get those private ventures to supply the jobs that feed that pipeline, whether it's from education, crime, or any other part of the city infrastructure?
Well, I think one of the biggest things, and this is something that we're very weak at, and that is we need to begin to train a workforce to be able to, there are a lot of jobs that are out there, but the workforce that you need for the IT jobs, for the health jobs, for private sector, for banking, whatever the areas are, even down to restaurants and hotels now, is training. I work with contractors, and one of the challenges that they face on a daily basis is not having individuals who are trained to do underground utilities. We have one of our members who's a large company who does business. It's a Black-owned company. He set up a school for underground utilities, working with 4 or 5 of the high schools. And guess what? And he's paying those individuals. He didn't get a grant. He took his own money. He still has the school. Kids that are in Mervo and the plumbing program and in Westside Skill Center, because he went through Westside Skill Center and other things. Once they have to go down and dig under the ground, because underground utilities, you got to go dig down. He wants you to learn every aspect of it, because you can become successful like he's become. He's a prime contractor.
Look, we have the resources.
The kids don't want to work. They don't want to.
We have the resources, Mayor Dixon. We have the resources. Why aren't the financials being distributed the way in the areas that they need to be distributed, or allocated where they need to be allocated? We have the money.
It's more than that. It's people also have to be willing to want to work. I'm giving you the challenge that he's facing. They don't want to get down in the ground and dig up, in the hot sun. I mean, and he provides food. He provides all kinds of provisions.
That's one case, though.
Wage. They don't want to work.
They don't want to work because you got all these government programs paying these people money.
I don't disagree with you on that. And who is now moving up the ladder as far as, and particularly with this infrastructure money coming, the Latino and Hispanic communities' income is now beginning to be more than African American. And so you're right. And
so what do we do? We are a predominantly majority Black city run by a predominantly Black city council, city legislator. Where's the problem then? Where are the breakdowns? What are you speaking to the culture of the people in Baltimore City?
It's a combination of things. One of the things, and you're right, one of the things that we have to stop doing is, and this is what I been saying for years now, is that we have all the ingredients to be successful. We have every nonprofit program. We have everything to be successful. The question is, just because you get a grant and, I got a grant, I got this program going, I'm really not being effective, but I'm being able to pay 1 or 2 people later for that. Let's bring all of these entities to the table. Let's look at who's effective and who's not. If you're not effective, either you need to join forces with somebody else, or you need to stop doing what you're doing. And see, and nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to do that. I'll use a prime example.
Because
every year they come up with a different philosophy. When I was mad, it was like, how do we build the middle class? All this is to get grant money and to hire people and to do hardly anything.
But how do we get there when you have Brandon Scott, Marilyn Mosby, what's his name, talking of everything is about race. They blame everything on race. Now everything is about equity, and there's put everything, gender, everything. You calling me names because of my gender. You calling me names because of my race.
Black.
Yeah. That's not just them. That's nationally now. That's, you're right, and that's a whole buzzword name, equity. And so the thing about it is, so now that we have this, what are we doing? We got to go back. We got to go back to the homes. We got to go back to, look at our education system. Right now, the schools have more money than they've ever had. And it's the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
So,
and look, the city gives them money. They're independent, but they're not independent. But they're not being accountable. Who's year, accountable since then? 2 years now, since the last 2 years, kids had to learn from home. And you know what that was like. Kids that didn't have the discipline or had somebody there with them didn't do anything. This year, you know how school should have been run? Kids should have been in school from 8:30 to 4:30. Have tutorial to help them, No, they don't need to take any vacation this year. Look, the school system has been on vacation for 2 years.
Well, let me ask you this, Mayor Dixon. You're talking about the school system and the kids. Since we know that public schools, by and large, are failures, utter failures. They are taxpayer dumps, black holes. Why wouldn't we support school vouchers, school choice? So as we know,
I support school vouchers.
Homeschoolers do very well.
And I support all the above.
Okay.
And I always support it. One of the things that I attempted to do in the schools, because education was my foundation, was to create community schools in the schools where you looked at what are the challenges that this school faces, not just for the students, but the parents, and to bring the resources into the school to accommodate those families. I'm a supporter of charter school. I'm a supporter of, if a person wants to take their child out and be able to put them into that new Catholic school down on Martin Luther King, then let them do that if it's going to help them.
Yeah, but it's not. That's not what's happening.
But see, what I am not a Republican. I'm a Democrat. I'm not happy with I'm not happy with either side, to be honest with you. But
Republicans haven't had a chance in Baltimore City. So how can you be happy with it? We haven't had a chance in Baltimore City.
Well, that's not my fault.
It's Baltimore City's fault, and we have the same problems all of these years, and nothing has happened.
You got to do a better job in campaigning. But the point is that, first of all, I'm moderate. I'm not progressive, and I'm not going to jump on a bandwagon just because that's popular, like some of our federal people have done. Period. I try to be realistic about what it's going to take. I was born and raised here. I'm a product of Baltimore Public School.
So
it was politics that closed my school, which was so disappointing, Northwestern High School, because the Orthodox Jews didn't want those Black kids up there in the Upper Park Heights community. And so they waited to see who was going to become mayor, Sheila Dixon or Catherine Pugh, because she told them, I'll close the school. Catherine's not from Baltimore. She's from Philly. But the point is that we had come up with an international model for Northwestern High School that would have attracted young people from all over the state of Maryland that modeled after a school in New Orleans and a school in Connecticut. So, but education is key. What's happening in the home is why would a child be outside at 9 o'clock on a school night?
Now we have one comment from Nicole Orr. She says, has the mayor, meaning Brandon Scott, sought your counsel, Madam Mayor? Has he sought your counsel? But don't sound
Not at all.
You know how young people are. They will they will listen. Brandon and I have met on several occasions. I have shared with him from my perspective, various things that I think should go on, but people make the decision based on, their decision. Brandon knew how my administration was run. This city was getting cleaner. I hate dirt. We were getting more into the environment with not just recycling, but with what are the smart cars and trying to do things about emission. we were getting our city agencies to be accountable.
That was great then, but here we are now. So what are they making the decisions based off of?
But that's the thing. That's the problem in Baltimore. If something is working, it doesn't matter if it was my idea. If you see it's working, then keep it going, because you ultimately get the credit. It's like when Martin established CityStat, and a lot of people criticize him. CityStat is a good, effective tool to assess what you're doing. And see, that's the thing in Baltimore. Because it wasn't somebody's idea, it's her idea, I'm getting rid of that. Versus, okay, she got something going here, or he has something going here. Let me build on this.
Yeah, well, that's obviously not what
you got some interesting comments. Somebody said, kiss the ring.
They need an overhaul.
Okay,
y'all just had an overhaul. People, what do you mean y'all just have an overhaul? Y'all got 90% of the council people are new.
They're all Democrat. They're coming from the same.
But it doesn't matter. They're new people that are in there. All right, so what are y'all gonna do?
Democrats. You have maybe two or three that are moderates. The rest of them are progressive Democrats.
Yeah, but one of the things that I did, and hopefully they still do that. One of the things that I did, because you have a lot of boards and commissions that make decisions. You have the planning commission, you have the zoning board. You have a lot of decision-making commissions.
And nobody's making decisions.
You don't put your friends on it. You put a mix of people, Republican, Democrats.
We can't get on any
that doesn't happen.
We try to get on the board. We try to get
wait a minute. You must not be submitting your names, because in some boards you have to have Republicans. It's required.
I have submitted my names before, and I have not been chosen.
Wow. You ain't submitting your name when I was mayor.
Well, you keep talking about when you mayor, but you're not the mayor right now. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I can't do anything about that. Next time I tell them.
Would you agree?
We're running out of time. I want to play this quick clip for you, Madam Mayor, and get your thoughts.
And that marks 302 homicides in the city so far this year.
343 people have been killed in our city.
We shouldn't even be talking about 300 murders.
For the second year in a row, Baltimore has surpassed more than 300 homicides.
The city went above 300 murders this year.
This is absurd.
More than 300 dead, and it's only early November.
Baltimore has reached a grim milestone.
Here we go again. The third year in a row, the city has reached 300 homicides.
Why are we here at 300?
300 murders this year.
The 300th homicide for the year. That comes after 3 people were killed yesterday.
It's disgusting. It's become our logo. It's almost become our brand.
300 murders so far this year.
The 299th and 300th murder victims were shot to death here off Monroe Street.
We cannot, as elected officials, shake this responsibility. 300 murders in Baltimore is unacceptable.
It's like the city leadership wants us to think this is normal.
For the 6th straight year in a row, Baltimore City records 300 homicides.
I will aim to reduce homicides by 15% each year in my term, getting us below 300 homicides in my first year as mayor.
The city does not have any leadership, and because of that, people are dying.
For a 7th year in a row, Baltimore reaches another grim milestone, 300 homicides.
Tonight, we learned that it is a 5-year-old girl that officially pushes Baltimore City's homicide death rate this year and for another year to at least 300.
Enough is enough. I've had enough.
Why is 300 the number?
Why is 300 the number?
Why is 300
Why is 300?
Why is 300
the number?
300 the number.
300 the number.
Why is 300 the number?
Why is 300 the number?
So this video has
I agree. One murder is too many.
Right.
And as our population reduces, we should be seeing less and less. And I'll be honest with you.
But we're not.
We're not right. No, you're right. We're not. And for me, it's unacceptable. I don't like us to be in this position. And we're losing good officers based on a lot of things that have happened. My nephew, who was in the Northern District, who was a sergeant, who really knew his district, did community policing. He just November the 1st, he said, Sheila, I'm out of there. And he grew up in Baltimore. He had the challenges that many young people have in the city. He had enough. I was begging him not to leave, but you're losing people like that. And we've got to stop playing the politics, and that's everybody. That's from the governor to state's attorney, everybody in the middle. It's like time out. Either do your job or send your letter of resignation in, and let's get somebody else to do the job.
Well, one thing has remained constant. One thing has remained constant in this crime wave that we have, and that is Miss Marilyn Mosby. From 2009 to 2014, the homicide rate in Baltimore fell.
Yep.
But then it shot back up in 2015. Then 2015 to 2019, there was about 1,659 homicides in Baltimore City, meaning about 1 out of every 350 residents. In 2020, under her leadership, Baltimore is on pace again to have over 300.
We have over 300.
We already have over 300 already. We have 300, yeah.
She has continued this rogue prosecution, these progressive politics. I won't even say prosecution. She doesn't want to do her job. She wants to be a politician. Her husband is in city council. To me, why, instead of her saying, I'm not going to prosecute these misdemeanors or low-level crimes, why wouldn't he put legislation towards the city council and do it that way?
Because they're sleeping together.
Literally.
Well, the council, actually, anything legislatively that could be done would really have to be done at the state level. So he and the mayor could put an agenda together and go to the state legislators to change some of the laws. At the city council level, you don't really have the authority to really make the kind of real changes in that respect. I mean, there's some minor things you can do, but you can go to the state legislator and put things in.
But she's decided not to prosecute these crimes on her
Which
own.
is why the governor is trying to rein her in a little bit.
But see, the governor, the governor is not her boss. She is the boss of her agency.
Right.
He is about, wait a minute now, but the governor also has to take on some responsibility. He appoints the judges. My gosh.
They don't get to the judges if they're not being prosecuted.
Yeah, but when they are prosecuted, these judges have to then also send the message that this is going to be unacceptable. He also has parole and probation. Well, get that straight. He also has the prisons. Well, when those individuals, they don't even have GED programs anymore in the prisons to try to help individuals before they come out to maybe change their lives. You got to do things that's why I said that your role and responsibility and that's why those individuals running for governor right now, I don't hear them talking about anything as relates to fixing some of the state agencies to deal with helping to reduce crime. You hear them talk about, social justice and all of this. And I'm like, that's not the governor's role.
Now, I have here, Giovanni Patterson says, are you saying city council doesn't legislate in the city?
Yes, they do, but they had their responsibility as far as what things they can legislate. What you're saying about low-level crimes, et cetera, has to be done at the state level. They can only do certain types of laws at the local level.
Okay.
Well, I have one last question. Maybe
I'm going to end on this, Shelly.
Oh, I'm sorry. So again, thank you for being here, Ms. Dixon. So I have a light question. Why should people stay in Baltimore City or even move here?
Well, Baltimore is, despite everything that's going on, we still are a great city. We have great neighborhoods, great communities, great quality communities, and people really care about each other. And for me, that's one of the big reasons why people should stay here. Do we have to improve in many areas? Because why people left the city, they left not because of crime, they left because of education and wanting the better schools for their kids. And now they're finding, even in Baltimore County, they're not getting the best schools. But we have great communities in Baltimore City, and people, look out for each other and they care about each other. And for me, we have a lot of jewels. We have great museums and great institutions. So there's a lot of pluses, great restaurants. but the people for me is the significant part of why I even continue to still live in the city.
KJ, can I just do a quick follow-up?
Just last one.
Okay. Sorry. So I just wanted to ask, how do we better support these community members? Because there are a lot of wonderful, great leaders, and I feel like, and they feel like the city uses them. They use their reputation, they use their name, but they don't support them. So a lot of these people are the ones that are gonna be the solution to the crime, and that are gonna be the solution to raising young leaders. So how can the city better support these community leaders?
No, I agree. One way, and this is something that I subscribe to, is you got to attend the community meetings. You've got to listen to those community leaders. You've got to take their suggestions and provide them with resources that are going to help them in their communities. That's how you work with them. It's great to be on social media and all of that great stuff, but you got to touch people and know the difference in what's going on in Edison or my neighborhood, Hunting Ridge or whatever, and work with those neighborhoods and those communities, and do follow up. When they give you issues or concerns, follow up with them, call them back, text them, whatever it takes to do the follow up, to say to them, look, it's going to take 2 months instead of 1 week, to get that tree cut down or whatever the issue is. But you got to communicate. You got to, yeah.
All
right. Emails are all going in the spam folder right now. So.
All right.
Hogan is a moderate Democrat and won only because we could garner support from everyone. And that's true. He did. He got more Democratic votes than he ever had.
Right.
Because he did what he said. He was going to reduce taxes and, and other things. I know Democrats who voted for him who never voted for a Republican before.
Well, hopefully we can have that again, maybe in the city.
And local government.
Yeah, local government.
Well, you got a good group here to strategize and to come up with, a couple good candidates. Try to get on some of those boards and commissions. Submit your resume. When I see Brandon, I'm gonna tell him, reach out to y'all and say, here's some great young ladies who would be excellent on your commissions and boards.
Oh, yes, please. We've all put in our names. We don't get the information, so please. All right.
Well, that's because you needed a woman mayor.
Yes. Well, and that was another thing I was going to ask. We ran out of time, but when during
you can invite me back.
You were okay. You were up in the polls and everything, and then all of a sudden he came forward in the numbers. So. I didn't know. Do you think it's anything nefarious going on there? Because
no, in 16, definitely things happened.
Okay.
I think this last time, COVID had a large role to do with it. Young people were home. George Floyd, the incident there. I mean, I think the whole progressive movement. I think those were contributing factors.
Do you think the progressive movement is actually effective, or is it harming, especially in Baltimore City?
No, I don't think that it's as effective as it. No.
All right.
I don't think it's going to help.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't get the progressive vote.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and chatting with us. We really appreciate it. We definitely come back again. And chat with us.
I would love to. Lively group. And those comments were like, very interesting.
Thank you for being a good sport.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Take care. All right. So
that was great.
That was great.
Yeah, it was.
So we still are on. We still have some more show to go through. Please continue to keep your comments coming. Again, that was former Mayor Sheila Dixon, moderate Democrat.
A Republican.
Yeah, she was actually conservative. A lot of stuff we said, crime, accountability,
education, school choice.
Yeah.
Well, progressive liberals are, they don't fall in line with moderate or classical liberals.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Progressive Democrat, progressive policy, not just in the city, but across the country, is hurting urban communities.
It's really regressive. It's really regressive.
Yes, it is. It is. And hopefully, we can do something about this. go across party lines and get rid of this progressive prosecutors, these rogue prosecutors, because Marilyn Mosby is horrible for Baltimore City, and get people in here who can do something about our residents.
Right.
So we are moving right along. Again, we see, guys, you have been commenting throughout the night. We really appreciate that. Keep the comments coming. We will continue to check the comments. Join the conversation on YouTube and Twitter. Again, check out our website, www.metroconservativemedia.com. All right. So next, we are moving along to our rapid fire round. So it's called Pop Off, where I'll ask each co-host a question. They do not know what the question is, and they have 30 seconds or less to answer. All right. So we're starting out tonight with Shelly. When Congress
game face on.
Say what?
Got a game face on already.
All right. So when Congress returned from Thanksgiving recess, they are working overtime to approve the 2022 National Defense Authorization Act, a must-pass national security package. It includes an amendment that would require women age 18 to 25 to register for selective service alongside men. Here's another one of these progressive policies. Do you support women being drafted? Why or why not?
So, no, I do not personally support women being drafted, because I actually believe that women are better served, if you will, at home, if you will. And I know that sounds... No, I know that sounds weird the way I'm saying it. What I'm saying is, to not be drafted, our men are a better fit, if you will, to be on the front lines. Let me say it that way. To be on the front lines of war. Now, I have been in a war. I was in the first Desert Storm War, literally in Saudi Arabia. I'm a veteran, as many of you know. So, but I was not on the front lines, okay? Some of my compadres, I call them, they were my soldier mates they were further up, closer to Baghdad at that time, or to the border, if you will. Having said that, I understand the I guess why they're doing this, because women have been clamoring for equal rights, or at least some women have. The feminazis, ode to Rush Limbaugh there, the feminazis have been clamoring for equal rights, believing, or delusionally believing, that they are somehow equal physically to men. It's a lie. It's a delusion. It's another delusion. And what's going to happen is women are going to be killed. And not only that, they're probably going to get their counterparts killed too.
Right. And I know we don't generally talk during this pop-off round, but they're going to get killed and they're going to get their backs blown out.
What? Wait a minute.
Yep. That's how you want it. But it's funny.
Okay.
It's funny.
Well, then add to that, they're going to be a lot of pregnancies.
Who is laughing like that? It's not funny. All right, let's go on. All right. Next we have T.
Let me repeat my phone.
And I'm talking about if they're taken prisoner. I can't believe you guys are laughing. A panel of women laughing about this. It's nothing funny. All right, let's see here. T. All right, take a look at this meme. Do you agree? Is there a such thing as an alpha female? So if a man is leading correctly, even an alpha female will submit. So do you agree with this meme? And it's a two-part question. Do you agree with the meme? And then also, is there actually a such thing as an alpha female?
So do I agree with the meme? Technically, no, because women should submit regardless, whether a man is leading correctly or not, because that's just, I think we don't choose men who aren't leading correctly. So, but the alpha female, no, women are women. There's no, all these titles, first of all, is crap. Alpha, beta, zeta, omega, whatever. If it's not, we're not talking Greek, then we're talking stupidness. So right. Good one. So there's no alpha female because women are women. And if you're a feminine woman, then you embrace your femininity anyway. I mean, yeah, we have the masculinity, femininity spectrum or whatever, but there's no, like, if you're a woman, you're going to fall in line anyway. Women should, but it's just not happening. That women aren't in place right now. So alpha female, that doesn't even sound right to me. Like, I don't understand that. Now there are women who do what they do in their place. Like, women have their zones and have their, you know, their gender roles, so to speak. But no, alpha female, that's crap.
All right.
I want to know, does alpha female refer to a more feminine woman, a more masculine woman, or is it just like a more independent woman? I don't even know.
Alpha means lead, so I guess it would
Leader,
mean a boss woman.
Yeah.
Then it says,
well,
come on.
You guys talk about alpha and beta men, you know. So
I'm not an alpha female.
Women should submit no matter what. Submit to what? No matter what. Does that mean women should not use their mind to think about what they're submitting to? Because it shouldn't be submitting to just everything.
I didn't say that. Why do we always have to go to the extreme? No, what I said.
No, you said women should submit no matter what.
What I said is women aren't going to submit to just anything anyway. Like, the first thing we think is, oh, we're going to submit to a man that's in jail or submit to,
I
like.
didn't say man. You said women should submit no matter what. I was just wondering what did that mean?
I mean, it's self-explanatory. We're submitting to a man's vision. We're submitting to, well, our husbands, first of all. We're submitting to his vision. He has to have a vision or goals for us to submit to. Like, we don't submit to just plain air.
A woman should be able to discern what she's submitting to and the purpose behind it, not just submit because a man has a penis.
Well, I said we don't submit to just anything. I said that in the beginning. No, I don't submit to just because there are some men who aren't leaders. So we're not talking about them.
They're not alpha men.
He's not out. Yeah, he's not someone that we would submit to anyway. Like, there's males, there are males, and there are men. Okay. We're not talking about the males here.
Okay.
All right. We're moving
the
on.
The ones who were raised by masculine women who don't know how to lead in the first place. We're not talking about them.
Okay.
All right.
And Dennis, hold on. What's Dennis' comment? He said, "I'm the poster child for alpha female." No, it's just like I said.
You don't even know it. You're right.
In my zone, in a woman's zone, I know how to handle things.
Oh, well, a lot of women do. So then, what's wrong with that?
I didn't say anything was wrong with it.
You said you didn't like alpha female.
Right? You said you don't.
I didn't say she was an alpha female. I said that alpha female stuff. I don't even know anything about the alpha female, all that stuff. That's what I said.
You said in your zone. So many women do
that. In your feminine zone, you can handle in your gender roles. I'll repeat myself.
Some of them are called alpha females, or
I don't call them alpha. Who calls them alpha females in the first place? Like, what is that? What is an alpha female? First of all.
Well, so we have a comment here. Someone said,
I
guess. I've been called an alpha female. I disdain that term. I perceive alpha female at its best as displaying confidence.
Okay. Well, we on the same page, Yana.
I don't think, even confident.
We have to move on. This 30-second response.
Alpha female, you lead.
We have an alpha female on the loose. She's not following orders in the order of the show. Here we are. So, we know who.
Xandria?
Shelly.
Oh.
Of course.
Yeah, you did comment on the first pop-off, KJ. KJ, you commented on the first pop-off. You broke it.
Thank you, Xandria.
KJ she's the MC of the show.
Well, I'm following
she's the moderator.
Because she broke it. I'm following her lead because she broke the protocol then.
And that's how it happens.
So I did submit. I submitted to her lead, following her lead.
All right. So we're moving right along to Xandria. So in a Tuesday news conference, Mayor Scott said the city is taking a big first step toward closing the broadband gap, using $35 million in American Rescue Plan funding. For now, the mayor wants to spend that initial $6 million in federal broadband funding to expand city fiber to 23 Baltimore recreation centers, install 100 public Wi-Fi hotspots in 10 West Baltimore neighborhoods, and hire a digital equity coordinator. Do you think the city will follow through with this and provide broadband for residents? Why or why not?
So they're going to do it in a way that benefits them monetarily and it benefits their interests. They have already had opportunities to provide this to the city from various private companies, from various nonprofit interests. It always stops at the city. I've listened to several conversations myself. The city doesn't have the technical knowledge on these things that they think that they have. And what's going to happen is they are going to bid this out to the lowest bidder. The lowest bidder is going to be the monopoly that is already in control in the city. The money's going to go right into their pockets, and then they're going to expand where they're pushed to expand. But that doesn't mean they're going to give a quality service to the people. They already, certain companies were already forced to give Wi-Fi free-ish, so to say, to certain parts of the city, to certain residents, and they gave such a minimal amount of bandwidth that the people can't really do anything with it. So it's going to take, it's going to be a lengthy process. They've had opportunities to do this really, really quickly, and they haven't, and they've had these opportunities for years. So maybe they will. I hope that it will work in favor of the residents, but as of now, I just see this going into the pockets of the very monopolies that fund their campaigns. So I hope they prove me wrong, but that's kind of how it is right now.
That was a good question for Xandria.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, I know that's her.
A lot of fuel there.
Yeah. All right. So again, this was our rapid fire pop-off round. Join the conversation by leaving a comment on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. We check the comments periodically throughout the show. Do you have a question for one of our co-hosts? Email me at kj@metroconservativemedia.com, and I will ask one of the co-hosts your question during our next pop-off. All right, so we do have one more topic for tonight that we are going to touch on briefly. This is a sad topic. Again, we're talking about Waukesha. So 1 week since Sunday, a Waukesha terrorist attack where a man intentionally drove an SUV through a crowded Christmas parade. At least 5 people are dead and over 40 injured. I believe an 8-year-old boy passed away also. So that included 18 children who were injured. Critics note the suspect had a long rap sheet of felonies, including assault, drug possession, statutory rape, and he was recently charged with running over a woman in a domestic dispute. So the question for you ladies tonight and to our audience, was the driver of the SUV out on bail because of the prosecutor's social justice approach to correct racial disparities? So we did touch on this a little bit earlier with Madam Mayor Dixon, this progressive pursuit, these rogue prosecutors. There was one in Waukesha, District Attorney John Chisholm. What are you guys' thoughts on this? This crime.
So you want me to go first?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I do believe that this POS was out because of rogue prosecuting or prosecutory policies. He should have been under the jail long ago. As you mentioned, he ran over his baby's mother, his child's mother, a week or two before this accident, as the media is calling it, when a car, just puts itself in drive and then drives into a slew of people, murdering some people. It's the car's fault, right? Just like it's the gun's fault when these violent criminals use guns, I guess. So he should have long been under the jail. Again, as we said last week, these policies that they claim to be helping the people, minorities, they are the very people who wind up dead from these policies, from these rogue policies.
Yeah, I want to just jump in really quickly there because I was so pissed to see this woman get up on the press conference. I'm talking about Marilyn Mosby, yes. And just, she was so indignant behind what Governor Hogan said. And she went ahead and she talked about all the usual stuff, his privilege, she's a black woman, and all this type of stuff. But there are black people who are dying in our city. There are black people who are dying in cities across the country because these prosecutors will not prosecute crime. What do you have to say about it, T?
I mean, as far as this incident, I just don't. Well, I heard about it one time, and maybe I saw one headline about it, and I'm just wondering, like, why hasn't it been more reports on this? What do we call it? Yeah, national news or more reports on it. Is it because he was black? I mean, are they, because you know how the narrative, it doesn't, if he was white, it would be another case. If he was white, we'd be seeing it all over the internet, all over the news, all over Facebook, people having their little comments and stuff about it if he was white. But because he was black, how come we're not, is it because he was black, we're not hearing or seeing these reports for this terrorist act? Because that's what it was.
Yeah.
Like, what's the bias behind that?
Yeah, I mean, you even had liberal actress Deborah Messing tweeted this week, "Dear mainstream media, a man intentionally drove his car through a parade, killing 6 and injuring 50 plus. It was not an accident. It was a domestic terror attack. Don't minimize, please." And she's talking about CNN, who and CNN, MSNBC, they don't want to talk about it was a man who drove over these innocent people in a Christmas parade.
Right.
Any of us could have been in a Christmas parade somewhere.
Exactly.
And by the way,
they would have said a white man if he was white. They would have said a white man.
Oh, a white supremacist, everything.
Oh yeah, he has written on Facebook and social media in the past, and I was trying to find an exact post, but he spoke out against a hatred towards elderly white people who were the main targets of his attack, coincidentally. I mean, I just don't understand how people are even trying to say this was an accident. This is somebody that has repeated problems, tried to run over his own baby mama, and they don't, you know what I mean? Yeah. But it's true, and now he's not. It was an accident.
He had so many charges. When they read those list of charges at the hearing, I mean, his charges was probably longer than our arms. The list of charges that he has been charged with over the years, even in other states, not even just in Waukesha. I think I'm saying it correctly. Not even just there. So again, this POS should have been long under the jail. These rogue prosecutors are, by extension, getting more people killed, particularly minority people in inner city urban areas. But they have a role to play, and they are getting people killed.
Yeah, I mean, and talking about the prosecutor, his name is John Chisholm. Again, he's faced scrutiny because he was one of these ones who it was his decision to push this abnormally low bail. So again, for running over
$1,000,
his mother, right? $1,000 bail. He admitted the bail recommendation was inappropriately low, considering the risk factors and charges the suspect was facing at the time. However, one of the pillars of his philosophy is recommending less than the usual bail amount for various criminal activity. So in 2013, this guy allowed a convicted drug dealer to walk free under a deferred prosecution agreement. So after being released, the man went on to inject a fatal amount of heroin into a young woman. We have a law system set. You have the prosecutor and you have the defense. Now, I worked for a public defender's office when I was in college. I couldn't do it. The man told me, he said, I think you're in the wrong office. I think
you too. I did the same thing.
But I appreciate the public defenders, but I also appreciate the prosecutors. This is why we have this adversarial law.
Mm-hmm.
You have a prosecutor, you have a defense attorney. Prosecutors, do your job.
Yeah, and Chris Holmes' office, as you mentioned, he has a policy that they, as an entity, they have a policy of they're soft on crime in the name of equity. Just to your point. So all these communities are suffering now because of this vision of equity that just goes back to hurt the people that they claim to be protecting the most.
I thought that the rogue prosecutors don't prosecute, or they have soft, or they don't prosecute nonviolent crimes. This is clearly violent. So why, I mean, I'm talking about the domestic violence, or the one he ran over his baby mama or whatever. Like, shouldn't he have been convicted because of that? That's a violent crime.
I mean, he admitted to the error of how low the bail was, but
yeah, after people are slaughtered, after people are run down.
Yeah, it's always too little, too late. Would he have done that had there not been some coverage of it? Probably not. Right? He's right. If something had not happened, we would be hearing of the same office in a few weeks from now when somebody else got released on low bail and committed another crime.
These same prosecutors, these rogue prosecutors, they want to go after the gun manufacturers. I say, let's go after them. Just like they want to go after the gun manufacturers, let's go after them, since they are a contributory factor in these murders, in my opinion.
What they're trying to do is they're trying to right historical wrongs. So when you talk to them, they always have these phrases. You know, they're trying to push against structural racism, mass incarceration, prosecutorial discretion, school to prison pipeline. This is all the stuff we've heard Marilyn Mosby say, you know, this restorative justice. Then you talk about reimagining everything. You know, we've heard Mayor Scott reimagining everything. He's reimagining policing, he's reimagining education. Everything he reimagining, excuse my French, turned to shit. So I mean,
you still got the plan, Shelly?
Yeah. And every one of these cities where these rogue prosecutors are in, from Philadelphia to Baltimore to San Francisco, you see the crime rates skyrocket dramatically in all of these cities. They're all being funded by George Soros. This is where Marilyn Mosby was when she was traveling, you know, in her spas and all that type of stuff. She was going to these panel discussions where they teach them pretty much how to sit and not do their jobs. So, and then you have Black and brown people in these cities that are becoming victims. We had a five-year-old girl who died of this year. And again, this is, you know, crime, and this is what's going on. But when people hear about this, when the gangs and people who commit crimes hear that she is not going to be tough on crime, people are more likely to do this type of stuff because they know, okay, I'm going to get off.
You can get away with it. Yeah.
Right. This isn't a time. This is a time to be critical of these people. I mean, we're almost back up to the levels we were in the 80s.
Yeah, and it's just December the 1st, so we have 30 more days.
Right. I mean, this is ridiculous. And not only that, but at least in the 80s, you had it where, and again, I'm not making light of it or anything, but you had a lot of the violence within people who were part of it. Now you have elderly people, you have women, you have kids who are being murdered in the streets. Right. This is crazy. Something needs to be done. This is at epidemic levels. So, you know, so again, we will continue to follow this story. We will continue to follow what's going on with Marilyn Mosby's office. You know, as we know, she was asked to provide the plea deals that she's made, and also deals where she's dropped charges. That is not on her website. She said in her interview in the press conference she did, she was like, all of these numbers are on my website. No, ma'am, that is not on your website. So where are the receipts?
By the way, we're all the protesters. We're all these organizations that go in uproar every time something, occurs to somebody that's Black. And here they are silent constantly.
Yeah. Again, and again, we are, I love Black people. Just in case, I'm not sure if anybody's watching, but I am a Black woman. Proud Black woman.
We're Black first of all. We're Black first. We can't get over that.
Yeah, right. So but the level of crime and the level of death that we have going on here, it's not enough Black in the world to stop me from being critical of it. So when she gets up in the press conference and she talks about, I'm a woman, now she wearing her natural hair, and voice starts shaking and stuff. No, that does not move me. What moves me is the crime and these people that are dying. We need you to get tough on it. We need you to do your job.
Right.
So that whole race baiting and all that, no.
Keep pulling the race card. You can't pull the race card when it comes to your job.
Right.
It's not about race. It's about rights and wrongs, and save the people that need saving.
Exactly. All right. So we are at the end of our time. So again, please continue to comment on our Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. Also subscribe to our social media so you always know when we post new content. Check us out on our website at www.metroconservativemedia.com for up-to-date information. Again, we are a necessary voice in news and entertainment. All right. So again, that brings us to the end. Any last words, ladies?
Happy birthday to Yana.
Yes. Yana, happy birthday. We are missing one lady tonight, Yana. Today is her birthday and she's not feeling well. So we
go ahead and sing.
Yes, we wish her a happy and speedy recovery. So
happy birthday and speedy recovery.
I mean, she said she's not feeling well.
No song, KJ.
Better.
No song, KJ.
Oh no, not tonight.
That's the post show.
Right.
She only sings in the post show.
All right. Well, thanks again for watching. We look forward to seeing you next week. Until then, count your blessings and live a life of purpose. Good night.